you there? What? I need to get
Say
together.
good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Grown Zone.
Well, we just finished talking about chapters 3 and 4 of The Grown Zone.
Loving in the Grown Zone.
Loving in the Grown Zone. It's a book by Alfred Edmond Jr. and Zara Green. And we, as a couple, are reading it. So the last 2 chapters that we read, 3 signs that he is not a grown man and 3 signs that she is not a grown woman. So we were just discussing some of our viewpoints.
You want to share with them the 3 signs he's not, and so we can discuss it?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So 3 signs he is not a grown man. Number 1, he does not hold himself accountable for the outcomes of his choices, but blames others and refuses to share responsibility.
Well, tell the other 2, and then we'll take them individually.
Okay. He views violence as an acceptable and even desirable form of human interaction. Been there, done that. And 3, he is unable to control himself, or worse, sees no reason to.
Okay, so the first one we'll take is...
He does not hold himself accountable for the outcomes of his choices, but blames others and refuses to share responsibility.
Yeah, I was sharing that in my experience I've met many men, and still know several men just like that, who don't want to take responsibility for anything. Everything is someone else's fault. Someone made them do it. Someone else should be to blame for it and should have to suffer the consequences of it. I personally was taught from a very young age that it's important to recognize you're wrong and to admit it. And from a biblical standpoint, to be able to confess, to get forgiveness. So it's always been my practice to try to acknowledge, to try to see where I'm wrong, and to try to apologize and correct it. I've even come across situations where it was important, whether you think that you were to the letter of the law wrong versus you hurt someone's feelings, and they need to know that you recognize that you hurt them. And so even that's a consideration as a man, to decide to apologize and take at least partial blame, if not full blame, especially for my own actions.
Coming from relationships where I was dealing with controlling individuals, both in my marriage and relationships outside of my marriage and after my divorce, all were very, very controlling. And so if anything happened that was wrong, it was my fault. No one besides me did anything wrong. There was no accountability, and they took no responsibility. So that first one really, really hits home for me. I am one of those types of individuals where I believe in everyone taking responsibility for whatever part they play. If there's an argument, I don't care who started what, there's still 2 people, and there's a part that each person plays. There's a part that each person is responsible for. So if it's just one-sided, no. Okay? Just no.
In a general relationship sense, whether this is romantic or platonic or brother sister or father mother, whatever the case may be, any type of relationship, there are going to be times where you cross each other's paths in a way that's not friendly,
right,
intentional or unintentional. And people have to be willing to say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it." Or even if you did mean it, say, "Hey, it was wrong of me to do it."
Why is that important?
Well, it's important because in order for relationships to continue on a positive level, then someone has to acknowledge what was done. If an acknowledgement doesn't happen, then there's always pain in the future. In future times that you work together, and that pain prevents cooperation. It destroys trust. It takes away the possibility of having positive outcomes from whatever you do in the future together, even if it's at work, or And so, in order to be able to work together in the future, this issue has to be dealt with now rather than swept under the rug. And too many people just sweep things under the rug.
Where are you going? Come on over here.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't like being on camera.
You look good.
Thank you, baby.
All right. So I think it's so. I really like that. No, I really like that what you said because it's so important. How can you have a sustainable relationship and work together if you're not willing to come together on heated issues and say, look, let's get down to the nuts and bolts. I'll take responsibility for my actions. You take responsibility for your actions. Let's all come together and squash this so we can move forward. There's no cohesiveness if you're not able and willing to do that, which is basically no value in the relationship. You're just,
Right, absolutely.
it's just dead.
I can turn it sideways if you want. But
No, I think this is
okay,
good.
what's the second point?
You want to try it sideways?
No,
Sure.
no, no.
You sure?
No.
Okay. The second one is he is unable to control himself, or worse, sees no reason to.
I'm going to take this one first.
Why me? I've got, oh my goodness, from the book of Coach Kenyatta. So we didn't have an opportunity to introduce ourselves at the beginning. For those of you that didn't know, this is Corey Jenkins. He is my boo. Mama. He is an executive sales coach. He also does a plethora of other things, tax returns and nonprofit formations and LLCs and what else you do, babe?
Not the whole resume.
Well, just go ahead and tell them what you do.
I help small business owners and individuals to organize and develop a financial plan as well as the structures necessary to be successful. That's it.
Really?
Yes.
All right now.
And you have a mission, I think.
Oh, see, he does this every time. He didn't want to do his, but he's going to make me do mine, right? But that's what a relationship is all about. You make each other stand up, be accountable, and stand in your power. So, my name is Coach Kenyatta, also known as the Royal, that's the other one. Also known as the Enterprise Coach. I'm a startup business consultant and a work-life balance strategist. I believe we all have the skills within us to monetize and live a better quality of life. Most people don't because they either don't have a plan, they don't have the determination, they don't have the capital, they don't have the resources, they don't have the people, they don't have a strong mindset in order to believe that they can succeed. So I am on a personal mission to free 1 million families to live and lead a positive impact both locally and globally through enterprise and entrepreneurship. So we both came together. Our story is cool. We'll do that on another scope. But first of all, we wanted to welcome all of our replay watchers. Thank you so much for joining us. And wanted to give you an opportunity to walk through our lives with us. It's a brand new relationship. So wherever it goes, we want to allow you the opportunity to journey with us.
And I like roller coasters, so it might be exciting.
I used to like roller coasters. Now I don't know. But anyway, we found Loving in the Grown Zone, and I actually told him, I was like, oh my goodness, I love these people and their book is so awesome. He was like, well, let's read it. And so, number one, that's a huge thing. We are both Bible believers. We are faith-based individuals, and we're bringing that together, and we believe that whatever we do in order for our relationship to actually be grounded in something that's going to be lasting, worthwhile, we have to come to terms with some of the issues that we've had in our past, and we need to build a foundation for our future. So number one, we read and we study together. So we read the Bible together, we have Bible study, we pray together. Issues that we're facing, we don't hide them. We come together and discuss them, even if they're painful. And reading this book is meat and potatoes. If you really want a serious relationship, this is where you need to start at. I mean, there's tons of books out there, and we recommend so many books, but this is one of the books that we decided to partner with, along with reading the Word of God. So get this book, read it.
Okay, back to our regularly scheduled program.
Sorry, I do get off on a tangent. So the next
Point number
one.
2.
Go ahead. He is unable to control himself.
Right.
Or worse, sees no reason to. You wanted me to talk about that, but I'm going to let you do it.
Okay. I personally, I have had problems with anger. It took me a long time to understand that and to realize it, but I did. And it took a while to pray and ask God for help, to talk to counselors and try to get some understanding. I took a class a long time ago that helped me as well to see myself and to recognize what my issues were, what my triggers were, and to get God to help me to alleviate me of those problems. And so now that that's happened to me, I'm able to identify people, especially men, who have issues controlling themselves, whether it be personally, financially, sexually, physically, whatever the case may be. And that is a big problem prevalent in our society, in our communities. Men oftentimes are taught to not control themselves in certain situations. They're told to let it go, be free. You're a man, and you should be proud of being a man. And controlling a woman is what a man should, that sort of thing. When that's not the case, that's not the truth. And so, we have a lot of work to do in this area. I've personally done a lot of work. I'm not saying that I'm there yet. They don't need to see just me.
They see both of us. Okay, good.
I feel like there's always room for growth. And so I'm continuing to always try to monitor that and ask God for wisdom and guidance on that as well.
Growth, personal development, a lot of people, especially in our society and in our culture, counseling is still considered a faux pas. It's considered, not necessary. But at the end of the day, that's a grown decision. When you recognize that there's something in your life that needs to be changed in order for you to actually have the quality of life that you want, you cannot be grown without addressing those issues. He said he got counseling. That's a huge thing. If you have a man that's willing to do that just for himself, that's huge. Never discount that. We had some issues just going in. I was not in counseling at the time. I got back in counseling that day. Never discount the ability to make yourself better in order to move forward in a relationship. If you ignore the issues, they'll only get worse. Yeah. Be willing to do what it takes in order to create a foundation underneath yourself first, and then that foundation underneath the relationship. So that point was actually
it kind of crossed over. Yeah.
So we're going to move back a little bit.
I have a good friend who even now, I'll say probably in the past 2 years, he's proposed to 4 women.
Dear Lord.
And he is well known all over this region.
Region. Okay.
And so it's not unusual to have 2 or 3 different women at his house a week.
No.
And not the same women, new women.
Please.
So the point number 3 is really important, which is...
Actually, this is point 2. We skipped around.
Oh, I thought we did. We missed the violence part. Okay. Yep. So that was point 3. I'm sorry, the violence part.
So I can talk on that because I was in violence doesn't just occur physically, even though this is referring to physical violence and physical abuse. My last relationship that I had that resulted in the birth of my 3rd and final child. I love my son. I love all of my children. It was a physically abusive one. The relationship before that, my marriage, it was emotionally and mentally abusive. So violence can occur on so many different planes, and you have to get free of it in order to be whole. Staying in a violent situation only breaks down your mentality, your character, your self-worth even more. There's no way you can think rationally or make decisions properly for yourself or for any loved ones that are attached to the situation. So this one was huge for me. What about you?
Well, I've not experienced it. Well, I have experienced it some personally. That I was, and for men it feels different, but we have to recognize it as the same. I was a victim of violence, and I didn't think it of physical abuse,
domestic violence
in my marriage, and I didn't see it as that in the beginning. I didn't recognize how it affected me, but it did affect me, and I had to recognize that.
Could you talk a little bit about what you viewed it as? Because I think that would be a helping point for so many people, because I didn't recognize it either, and I have a background in counseling and psychology. It's hard to view and recognize when you are in the thick of it. You can't see it. You can't tell. Your eyes are closed to it because you're so locked into that person in that relationship that you're not even able to understand. He just put his hands on me, or she just put her hands on me.
Right.
Physical abuse. You're not thinking about that.
I think
we can go back to childhood when